What's up everyone, we're back at it again. My name is Brad and welcome back to my channel. Today what I want to do is I want to give you a week 8 update on what all of my ficuses look like since giving them the big chop. I've given you week 1 all the way up to week 7 and now we're at week 8. They've slowed down a little bit, but without further ado, let me take you outside so I can show you what the progress looks like so far. It's been super hot lately, so because of that, I waited for the sun to go down a little bit before I did the week 8 update. So let's start off with this Ficus Elastica Burgundy. As you can see, the leaves have started to get really big, just like last week, and it's put on some more growth, which is amazing. I have this leaf up top that has unfurled, and you can see that it's starting to shed its sheath. It's still attached, but that's great. I have a leaf here that has unfurled or is starting to unfurl as well. And you'll notice that I have swelling here as well as here as well of the leaves. All in all, this specimen is looking absolutely beautiful. I do think that by the end of the growing season, I'm going to put on potentially upwards of a foot to a foot and a half of additional growth. I think these branches are going to continue to develop. I also think I'm going to get more apical growth, so I'm going to get more height on my Ficus Elastica Burgundy, and it's just going to be all in all a really great specimen of a tree. I mentioned this before, but because of the fact that we haven't had any rain in a while, it's been a little north of 2 weeks, I've had to water my Tinekes and my Elasticas and my Fiddle Leaf Figs just more frequently. So I have watered this as of yesterday. I'm going to hold off on the water today. When I did water, I did give it a double dose of fertilizer, and I've noticed that the growth has slowed down a little bit with this particular plant, and I think it's because it is water stressed. So if it doesn't have the water to help feed itself, because water has components that are pretty essential to these plants and really any plant, it's going to really slow down in that growth. I want to make sure that I maximize all the direct bright sunlight that it's getting, so I'm probably going to up my watering to about once a week to once every week and a half. Plant number 2, you have to love it. This is the Ficus Elastica Robusta, and again, just like my Ficus Elastica Burgundy, the growth is looking really good. Now, one thing that I really want to try to do this particular growing season, and what I hope happens, is I want to continue to get more upward growth. I think I'm going to get that upward growth from some of these branches that are buried deep in here. But once it really shoots up past this canopy here, it should just begin to take off. And as you can see, the leaf production here has also slowed down. And again, I think it's because this plant is also water stressed. You'll notice that the leaves are really curling a bit upward. Now, you'll get this leaf curl upward when your leaves are doing their best to conserve moisture. When your leaves curl upward like this, it essentially is decreasing the surface area in which water can evaporate or transpire from the leaves. Conversely, if you have too much water in your pot, for instance, you might notice that your leaves are a little bit more flimsy and floppy and are actually in an inverted U shape or an N shape. And that's because your leaves are trying to increase the surface area so they can increase that transpiration of water from the leaves. But because these leaves are curled upward, I did water this plant yesterday, and it has recovered a little bit, and I'm hoping that it's going to continue to recover so we can get past this stress that it's experiencing right now, so we can continue to get that, growth, apical growth that we want to see, similar to the Ficus Elastica Burgundy over there. If you like videos like this and want to continue to see more videos about houseplant tips and tricks, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. It's totally free and would mean a lot. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the week 8 update. Plant number 3 is the Ficus Elastica Tineke, which is next to my Ficus Elastica Robusta, which is right in front of my Ficus Elastica Burgundy. Now, finally, I'm starting to get bigger leaves on the Tineke, and you can see that the leaf production is starting to produce leaves that are quite pretty, actually. Now, just like with my other plants, I have started to water more frequently because we are in a period of drought. And I want to make sure that these plants remain as happy as possible and continue to produce as much as possible. If it doesn't have water, or if your plants don't have water, chances are you're going to notice a slowdown in any kind of growth that they might experience. So with this Ficus elastica Tineke, I'm upping the watering similar to my other plants to about once a week to a week and a half. And that seems to be doing the trick so far. I'm hoping that we're going to get some rain soon because these plants love to have the wetness of the rain hit the leaves. But all in all, I'm really happy with what this Ficus elastica Tineke looks like so far. And you can really see the contrast too, just the contrast in the leaves. So beautiful plant, one of my favorites, my Ficus elastica Tineke. Here are my Ficus Audreys. So Ficus Audrey number 1 and Ficus Audrey number 2. Now the Ficus Audrey number 1, really nothing has changed that much. It still has a beautiful tree-like structure, and the trunk is starting to get thicker as I would expect because it's outside and it's getting movement in that trunk. You'll also notice too that as we progress through the weeks, the darkening of the trunk has happened as well. So this green is actually starting to essentially get hardened off. So if you look here, you'll see the process happening. And this is an essential component to make sure that you have a nice sturdy structure for your tree. If you have this, it's great. If you don't, that's fine. Just do your best to give your trunk some movement. That way it can sturdy itself up and prevent any kind of weakness in your tree as it begins to fill up top. The last thing you want to happen is have beautiful branching up top that can't be supported without any kind of additional support. The best trees are trees that can support themselves and support that upward growth that they put on. So the Ficus Audrey number 1 looks beautiful. Moving over to my Ficus Audrey number 2, you can see that the leaves continue to form on this particular branch that is to the left of the main stem, which is great, and we'll keep that. You'll also notice too that I've staked this loosely because what I want to do is I want to do my best to give this tree as much of a vertical appearance as possible. One of the main issues that you'll see with these trees, or really any tree, is that if you allow them to begin leaning and you don't catch the lean early enough, your tree is going to have this U-like structure. Or I should actually say C-like structure. But as you can see, I still have some green up here, which means that the trunk really hasn't yet settled on the shape that it wants to be. So I'm hoping that by loosely staking, and you can see that it's loosely staked because it does move just by tugging on the leaves. I'm hoping by loosely staking it, I'm going to be able to correct the growth pattern. But again, I'm really happy with the type of growth that it's put on, and I'm hoping that lower down on the stem without doing any kind of notching, that the tree is going to begin to fill out. I'm actually going to make a video about how to notch. I don't know if it's going to come before or after this video, but I'm going to make a video about how to notch these type of trees, or really any kind of ficuses, so you can get that growth if you have a bare stem. So Ficus Audrey number 2, Ficus Audrey number 1. Moving along to my Fiddle Leaf Figs, we have Fiddle Leaf Fig number 1, and we also have Fiddle Leaf Fig number 2. Really nothing much has changed with these Fiddle Leaf Figs other than the fact that I do have a leaf that is starting to form here. You'll see that I have some swelling. Now, if you look at these leaves, you'll notice that these leaves are a bit on the yellowish side, which really isn't something that we want. We want the leaves to become or be dark green. So I am going to monitor this, because if this type of growth happens, or if this discoloration continues to happen, what I need to do is most likely need to supplement with some kind of iron or some kind of nitrogen in order to increase the greenery. But these leaves are looking absolutely beautiful, and I'm really happy with what this particular Fiddle Leaf Fig has done since giving it a big chop. And I'm really happy that I do have some leaf formation. I did mention last week that I was probably going to get another leaf within the next week or two, and I do think that's going to happen here shortly. So this is looking absolutely beautiful. And then moving over to my second Fiddle Leaf Fig, really, again, nothing has changed. I don't have any kind of swelling or any kind of new leaves that are forming yet, but I'm hoping that, who knows, perhaps in the next month and a half or so, especially if we get a lot of water, we're going to start to see more growth forming from this Fiddle Leaf Fig. I do believe that when I start upping the water, all of my plants are going to be rewarded or reward me with a lot of growth. So here are my Fiddle Leaf Figs. Here is my Ficus Moonshine. Now with my Ficus Moonshine, I'm actually watering more frequently than I am with my plants that are in bigger pots because this pot is so small. Now I'm watering this pretty consistently at once every week to once every 5 days because I do notice that the soil dries out or tends to dry out more quickly. I haven't gotten any new leaves besides the previous leaf that I had, I think around maybe week 6 or week 5, but I am noticing that I'm having some length on this sheath right here. So perhaps within the next 2 weeks, I can expect to see a new leaf emerge. So that's super exciting. Ficus Elastica, excuse me, not my Ficus Moonshine, absolutely beautiful plant. And here is the Ficus Altissima Yellow Gem, which has done just absolutely incredibly. Now, if you look, I have so many branching patterns going on and all of this since doing a chop on it. And I mean, this is what I'm talking about. If you give your plants a big chop, they will reward you. Just as long as you have the patience and as long as you do or take the right steps, you will get this branching easily. Now, I did mention before that I couldn't wait for the leaves to start to become bigger because these leaves will get bigger. These leaves will get as big as my Ficus Robusta right there. But, you know, it does take some time after giving it some kind of chop. But just look at the growth pattern that these leaves are exhibiting. It's unbelievable. Just the lime, I'll call this lime greens and yellows and dark greens and forest greens. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, I do want to also point out here that just because you chop off a branch at a node, or just because you chop a branch off, doesn't mean that this particular branch or node is going to become dormant. Your tree will push out additional growth. So I did have a branch that used to exist right here. I cut that branch and look, I'm getting new growth pushed out. Now, the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to have a nice, uniform, clean look when I gave my Ficus Altissima Yellow Gem the big chop. And I really wanted to show that your tree can push out growth even when it doesn't have leaves that will help it out. So Ficus Altissima Yellow Gem, absolutely love it. It's doing spectacular. And I just can't wait to see what all of my plants look like in the upcoming week. Now, I am going to be out of town next week, so most likely I'm not going to have a week 9 update for you, but we'll pick this back up at week 10 so you can just see what the progress looks like, I guess, within a 2-week gap. I will try to have a bonus video for all of you to next week in place of the week 9 update, since I'm not going to be able to do it. So I hope that will hold you over before, or I hope that will hold you over before I have that week 10 update posted. Awesome. So there you have it. That's the week 8 update on what all of my ficuses look like since giving them the big chop. Again, the progress has slowed down a little bit, but I'm still really impressed with what the Ficus Altissima Yellow Gem has done. I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks or so, I'm going to get some more growth, as well as I'm hoping by giving my plants some more water, because like I said, we've been kind of in a drought here. I'm hoping that these 2 things will help to increase the growth rate of some of the plants. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week or maybe 2 weeks from now when I give you an update on what all of my ficuses look like since giving them the big chop. I'll see you on the next one.